When I explore, you can say I'm a loner. Most of the time I explore is to clear my mind.
The visual high that I get from seeing something so massive in an advanced state of decay is just amazing.
These individuals feel inclined to preserve their experiences with art and photography, illustrating history through modern mediums. They are urban explorers.
I was spray painting, just tagging, just put my initials on the wall. Then when I got to photography, I started getting better with spray painting, doing more art. When you're a photographer or doing videography, you'll have like a good imagination. And you know, going to abandoned houses and stuff like basically help you make that happen.
I started when I wanted to branch out. I saw a picture that this photographer Justin Wolfe took of the Divine Lorraine. When I started, it was like, I love this building. I was obsessed with the Divine Lorraine. Tell you everything about it, from any year, what was happening, who owned it, what was going on inside, something about Father Divine's life, or why he imposed some really weird, strict moral rules on the building and the people in it. And I just decided that I wanted to be there and all those other places.
I love Philadelphia. I love Philadelphia buildings. I love Philadelphia architecture. And I love Philadelphia neighborhoods. I love seeing new things. I like adventure. I like capturing these buildings before they're gone forever.
Honestly, it's just for like the feeling of being in there. I don't know, there's something about it, and just being a photographer, you're able to capture that.
I moved to Philadelphia in 1988 in college, and I always had a love of abandoned buildings, Philadelphia architecture, buildings in general. And back then, we would go into abandoned buildings in a very, dumb kind of way. Years later, as a grown-up, I started taking exterior photographs of abandoned buildings in a much more thoughtful way, and I made a Tumblr blog from that. And people liked it, but I was always curious about what was inside, but then I'm just one person by myself, and I want to go exploring by myself. And then I found a great group of folks in Philadelphia to go exploring with. And that's when I became addicted to urban exploration as a way of archiving or capturing Philadelphia and these buildings, because a lot of these sites are demolished eventually.
Although abandoned buildings can be a muse for artists, they are often known to attract negative, sometimes criminal behavior.
Abandoned buildings can attract, they're often called attractive nuisances. So they attract other sorts of nefarious or criminal behavior. So they may become places where people sell drugs or use drugs. They're often can become sites of dumping. They're often the sites of a lot of graffiti, which is a blight on the neighborhood.
While many people support the excitement of urban exploration, others feel as though urbex can be intrusive and that the explorers themselves are disrespectful to the buildings and communities.
But there's this sort of like voyeuristic, consumptive approach to the environment when in fact those abandoned buildings and sort of that representation of decline are not things to be taken lightly, right? They're not a playground for folks to go in and think, well, oh, this is like a fun place to be and this is an adventure. They're not really recognizing the larger systems and structures in place, what it means to walk into a community as a guest, as a visitor, to folks who have lived there for generations and saw sort of the rise and fall of some of these buildings.
I think that regardless of age, anyone who chooses to do this as a hobby should stay respectful of the sites, respectful of the neighborhoods, not take anything, don't break anything, don't leave anything. There's a saying, take nothing but pictures, leave nothing but photographs.
The Philadelphia High Performance Building Renovation Guidelines state that achieving high-performance building goals in Philadelphia is a challenge when a majority of limited capital dollars are stretched to meet the basic renovation and repair needs of aging infrastructure.
In the case of schools, there is a very strong attachment, even for people who understand that a school in their neighborhood may have needed to close, even if they're not happy about that. Even for folks who are
But when a building is completely knocked down and new construction gets put in its place, like a terrible strip mall or just something really ugly, it really breaks my heart. One example is Edison High School. Edison High School was like a castle. It had gargoyles on it. And then they just knocked it down and they're putting in like a Burger King and all this, probably a dollar store, and like all this terrible new construction. I mean, what could that have been if they renovated it?
In March of 2013, the School Reform Commission voted to close 23 public schools in Philadelphia as a way to deal with a $304 million budget deficit.
The public sector alone cannot afford to renovate and rehabilitate the large numbers of abandoned buildings that we have in many cities, and particularly in Philadelphia.
There are plans, there are renderings to renovate the Divine Lorraine Hotel. Money is not there in Philadelphia to do that. From the neighbor on the street to the mayor, and there's support for that. Still, with all that support behind it, it is still a slow-moving renovation. I would be happy if I could not do my hobby anymore, because every building in Philadelphia was bought and renovated and made into something awesome.
In these buildings, their insides in ruin, creativity flourishes. Even though the decay is glorified, explorers agree that the repurposing of these structures can add a new, widely appreciated allure, without the need to demolish. It's important for communities to preserve antiquity when the world around them continues to modernize and the history within disappears. Urban explorers find beauty within maturing places and offer these buildings a lifeline through their art.